Hello, everyone. Welcome to Insider Insights. We have Dr. Qisha Quarina, Assistant Professor of Economics at the UGM. So thank you for your time, Qisha.
Thank you, P.
We have conducted a survey in Yogyakarta, so we want to talk a bit about it today. And we have jointly designed the survey, but you've done most of the groundwork as well as analysis.
Okay.
So probably I should ask you, instead of me explaining everything.
Okay.
So could you just elaborate a bit about the survey?
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Ipe. So I think we would also like to thank ILO for this opportunity conducting this research and survey. So this research is a collaboration between the Faculty of Economics and Business at Universitas Gadjah Mada in Yogyakarta with the Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Indonesia in Jakarta, and of course funded by the ILO, supported by the ILO. So we are delighted to kind of do this research because it's a research regarding the elderly costs, in particular in the region of Yogyakarta, because the region of the Yogyakarta now is the most aging region in Indonesia, where the proportion of the population, the elderly population, has reached above 10%, and that is by definition we can define this region as an aging region, and it's the most aging region compared to the other regions in Indonesia. So yeah, I think our faculty in particular has the advantage to be located in Yogyakarta. So we conducted this household survey, but we also combined with the in-depth interview to get more in-depth insights regarding the costing structure and who actually bear the cost of these elderlies, who are taking care of these elderlies, and if they are using the family members, whether it will affect the family members' labor market situations, and that's why we also kind of discussing and also estimating the opportunity costs for the caregivers who's taking care of these elderlies in the household.
So could you remind us how many samples did we collect, and then from where? And is it regional representative samples or not? A bit about the methodology.
Oh, right, yeah. So yeah, we do the probability sampling to make it representative to the population, the elderly population in Yogyakarta. But since we are particularly interested in also estimating the opportunity cost for caregivers, we're looking at for elderlies who are above 65 years old and who are not working at the moment. So we're looking at the population proportion and then use that to estimate the distribution among districts in Yogyakarta. And we calculate the number of samples according to those population proportion as well. So we targeted the household survey to 400 households. And then we split proportionally between districts based on the population proportion distribution as well. So we're covering the 5 districts of Yogyakarta, including the city of Yogyakarta, Sleman District, Bantul, Kulon Progo, and also Gunung Kidul. So so we did this probability sampling that we can argue that it's representative to the elderly population in Yogyakarta, but for those aged above 65 and who are not working. But at the time when we did the interview, we targeting the caregivers because we also asked about the household expenditure. So we need to kind of have someone to tell us exactly how the expenditures for the household was breakdown for the elderlies and for the other household members. So the main respondents that we interviewed was the caregivers, and also to ask them about their labor market status and also the cost that was lost for taking care of these elderlies.
Okay, thank you. What was the major findings so far from probably academic point of view or from your labor economics perspective?
Right. We got several interesting findings. So first of all, demographically speaking, we found that most of the caregivers are the productive age caregivers, but we also find that more than 20% of the caregivers are elderlies. So it's like elderlies individuals taking care of their elderly individuals within the household. That's pretty much interesting to our findings. And the productive age caregivers are mostly the biological children, while the elderly caregivers are mostly the spouses of the elderly. So, for example, the elderly wife is taking care of their elderly husband because the elderly husbands aren't able to do, the daily activities without the help of the wife. Another interesting finding that we found is that regarding the costing analysis, like the cost structure. So most elderlies in Yogyakarta that we interviewed, most of the expenditures are for the medical cost expenditures. But what's interesting is that most of this expenditures are paid out of pocket. So they're still relying on the contribution of informal contribution from the family members instead of from the contribution or from the contributory system of the social protection system. They do have health insurance, but most of them have the PBI of JKN, which means is a social assistance. Right. So just few of them have the contributory types of health insurance, and even for the workers' social protections, most of our respondents, both the caregivers and also the elderlies, just few of them have like the old age benefit or even the pension for the elderlies, and it's not really kind of supporting the expenditure or the cost expenditure for taking care of the elderlies. So most of this expenditure or expenses to finance the elderly's needs, like medical costs or medical care, are mostly financed by the family members. So there's a high dependence on this informal dependency from the family members to finance these elderlies in the Yogyakarta, especially in the region of Yogyakarta.
Yeah, I just accompanied with your team, I think, for 2 days, and I visited only 10 households, more or less. And it was quite surprising to see how they live in such a kind of small households. I thought that that's kind of a big family, but actually if we go in daytime, children are working somewhere else, and older people are staying there, taking care of themselves and while doing farming. So did you find any kind of different trends in urban and the rural?
Well, yeah. So we do find that most of the caregivers in the urban area, they are mostly working as employees as opposed to those living in the rural area where most of the caregivers, they also work, but more like in the informal sectors. But yeah, I think I need to mention this earlier. Like if we look at the demographic distribution of our sample, because most of these elderlies are located in region like Kulon Progo and Gunung Kidul, where it's mostly rural areas. So I think the one that you also visited are representing the rural areas, where the ones in the urban areas, they have a kind of distinct characteristics where the caregivers are more well off, I would say, because they're working as an employees and they have employers, and some of them also more covered by the workers' social insurance, and they do mention they have like the work accident insurance, death insurance, but not with the ones in the rural area. And I think another difference is the utilizations of like outpatient, inpatient, and home care services. So the one, outpatient is kind of more robust between rural and urban, but when it comes to inpatient and especially home care, it becomes more kind of a luxury health services, and only households in the higher deciles of expenditure or in the higher deciles of welfare utilize this kind of services, especially the home care, and we mostly found these households in the urban area.
Okay, thank you. I think this is the last question. Did you find any particular challenge, except me responding slow? in the survey?
That's the biggest one.
Do you have any other challenges?
Of course.
Technical challenges.
Yeah. Well, of course, I think all researchers who have done field survey will agree with me that when conducting an in-person household survey is not very easy. And sometimes the respondents are not very friendly, especially those in the urban area. So I would like to thank to all of my team, like my field enumerators team. They did a wonderful job, did an excellent job. For you really need a good team to do this kind of field survey. You need like an experienced one, because it's not easy to kind of persuade someone who had been working from 8 to 5 and then you just came in, hey, I'm from this university, even if you are from this university, but they're just tired, and you had these long questions. We got long, very long questionnaire. We thought it will be done in 45 minutes, but no, like 1 hour is like the minimum, because it's like combining the Susana's household survey versus the labor force survey of Sakernas and the IFLS or the ILAS, because we're also asking about the time use diary, but the elderly. So it's like the IFLS, I would say, but within that short time span, I think you need a strong team. That's one of the challenges if we want to conduct such survey. And the biggest challenge will be, especially in the urban area, is to get the respondents who wants to respond. But thankfully, I think because we had this great team, like when one household dropped, we instantly find the replacement for that household in the same sampling cluster, so we're not violating the sampling design that we agreed in the beginning. So, but yeah, this is always a challenge to find the respondents, especially the one in the urban area.
So it sounds like the most of the challenge is coming from my poor planning, putting everything in a short time.
I mean, even if we have a good planning, I mean, there's always an X factor when you go to the field, and it goes back to the willingness to answer, like, because all of the survey, we have a consent letter, right? And oh, by the way, we did an ethics clearance at the beginning, and in the ethical clearance, we define that respondents needs to be volunteered to be interviewed. So you cannot force this respondent. So if they refuse, then we have to find the replacement. So even if you have a well-planned design, still you need a backup plan. I think that's the most challenging part in conducting a field survey, because by consent or in the ethical clearance rules, the respondents needs to be volunteered for the interview. Otherwise, you're violating the ethical clearance.
So I'm sure we can say this is a great survey, and we can provide a meaningful,
hopefully, or at
evidence.
Least as a benchmark survey for the next survey, because we only I think we got only like less than a month to conduct these 400 household surveys. It was very ambitious. So I remember there was no break for my team, like even during the weekend, because those are the days where the respondents are at home, during the weekends. So during that 1 month, my team did not have a break even during the weekend. It's more of a commitment, and hopefully, even though I have to acknowledge this survey or this research might still have some weaknesses or some drawbacks, but hopefully it gives some sort of a benchmark for bigger surveys or a bigger studies, and contribute to the policy recommendations, especially for the pension reform in Indonesia.
So this is a great benchmark evidence, probably for the most. Can we say this is almost the first very comprehensive survey specific to this topic?
I will say, because none of the previous survey, even the latest one of ILAS, has taken into account the opportunity cost of caregivers. So
that's a uniqueness.
That's a uniqueness, yeah. And we also incorporate the time use diary, although not the perfect time use diary due to the time constraint, but we try to incorporate that to calculate the opportunity cost.
Thank you very much, Qisha, for your time.
Thank you, Pei, for having us.
So that was Dr. Qisha Quarina, and see you next time.